Today on Slipping Time, we're going to talk about moldings on the car that are lifting, coming off, or curving. No, not on this car. As you know, this car is perfect. There's nothing wrong with it at all. But I'm going to show you a car where they're starting to lift in the corners and also bubble a little bit. And I'll show you how to fix that. Stay tuned. Hello, and thanks for slipping some time with me. Today, we're going to tackle a few things on this 92 Eagle Talon. Pretty common in a lot of, we'll call it, 80s, 90s, and later cars. The moldings start to kind of get hard and brittle, and they want to curve on the sides a bit, so they start to lift. So I'm going to fix that. This actually isn't too bad, but the owner wants it perfect, so I'm going to try and fix and adjust that. I've done it on other cars, and I'll just show you how my methods of doing it. Take it or leave it, I guess, and if you want to do the same thing, but I'll show what I do and take you along with me on getting these panels just where they're lifting on the corners here to seal up a lot better and just look better on the car overall. So forgive me if the car is a little dirty, but we'll just ignore that for now. You can see in this, this one's actually pretty good. You could tuck it in a bit. Now these actually from the factory actually were like this, and it's because they kind of hook in here, and that's how they stay on this corner. The little adhesive tape comes up to here, but it always seems to lift there. If you look at any Eagle Talon of first generation, they always are a little out here, so this is probably normal from the factory. I might try to tuck that in a little bit, and I'll show you how I manage that. You can see we're lifting a little bit here. This one's actually pretty good. When you come to the front, you can see it lifting right there. We can tuck it in a bit. And these panels are very common for, I call it buckling. They get just a little harder from over time, the plastics on them and they try to curve. And these are a little more difficult to try and get back. I'll do my best on this and see how well we can get this done. We'll just go over the other side now. Probably something very similar. We'll see. Same thing on this one. You can see in there, that's this side is really noticeable, I guess, too. A little bit in there, you can see, moving it there. And I think back here we aren't too bad. Yeah, we're pretty good there. And then again, this one is actually pretty good, but you can, actually this one's really good. I don't think I even need to touch that one. Right in here, you can see how, again, that doesn't tuck in quite, but again, that was from the factory that way, just the way these hook in and the way these are set up. But you can make it better than factory that way if you want, and I'll show you how to do that. So the first thing I'm going to try and fix is on this panel, the edges here on each side. And I've got three methods that I'm going to try with one. If that fails, then I do the next one, and then I do the final one, which we'll call that the absolute right way, I guess, is the last one, where you take this body panel off, you strip everything, and you reapply everything. That's a lot of work if you don't need to do it, and I've been successful with these other two methods that I'm going to demonstrate to you. So you can see, it's not very far out, but what's happened is that adhesive tape, and also this is wanting to bend just from time and age as well, is pulled out. And there probably is a little bit of dirt and stuff in there as well, and it's lost adhesion over time and whatever's happened in there. So what I'm going to do, just to show you, is I'm going to spray some like window cleaner in there. And normally I'll, for demonstration, I only got one hand because I'm holding the camera, but I'll pull this apart, and then I'll take an air gun. I'll load up really good there, and then I'll hopefully get any debris or any dirt in there that's cleaned out, clean that, and then make that adhesive surface there. That's not the end of it, obviously. I've got some work to do on how I'm going to get that to compress again and seal up and go back to the way it was when it was freshly applied. And how I do that is I take, and I've showed this in other videos, when you are applying any attached tape for moldings, this adhesive adhesion promoter, which actually gets it sticky again. So I'm going to put it in there, get it in there, spread it apart and get it in there. And then I'm going to clamp it basically and let it dry. And sometimes that's just enough. That's all we got to do. So let's try that right now and see if that is successful. And if not, then we'll go to the next step. Okay, change of plans. I'm not even going to bother trying that method I just talked about. Just so you know, the second method was if that didn't hold, I could put a little epoxy in there and then clamp it. But as I was looking through here, somebody, I don't know if they put some type of black silicone in there. I don't know if you can see that a little bit there, right in here. Anyway, it's packed in there and it's stopping it from actually closing up on the door. So I got to take this all off and clean it all up and then do this right. So otherwise it's never going to seal. So let's get to that now. So you can see the chunks of whatever they used in here to try and get this all, yeah, this is kind of a mess in here. Got to take this off. How I end up doing that is I use just it's actually a interior removal tool components that I just, because it's plastic and doesn't hurt the paint, I scrape off a little bit of the adhesive tape here. And I'll do the same over here on these guys. Will be pretty easy to take off. It wasn't prepped right. These should never just come off like this. They should actually be pretty tough and need scraping off, but they're just pulling off. Yeah, this was not done well, whoever put this on, unfortunately, but we'll get it cleaned up and put it back on right. Okay, I'll show you what I did so far. Basically, you've seen in the time lapse there that I kind of scraped out a lot of this top edge, which actually wasn't too bad. You can see, you know, they were missing there, which is really a no-no. This is where you definitely want the adhesive to hit. And yeah, there you can see that it wasn't on very good either for whatever reason. I got to take some of this off yet and then do that. You can see there, this is where that, whatever they used, this black hard shell, something they injected in to try and, I guess, not do it right, whoever was, when this might have been lifting for some reason. I got to chisel this out and be careful that I don't disform the plastic on that. Speaking of that too, this is your top edge of that sits against the door when you look down, and there's a little groove here. So make sure you don't cut that groove out. That's very important because that sits against the door, and you want to make sure you don't cut any grooves because you'll see it from the top of the door from the outside. So I typically use a screwdriver and kind of go against that corner and be very careful so I don't go over, and then it just kind of makes this nice slot. You also want to get this very as much as you can down. There are adhesive removers to get this out. I just kind of whittle it down like I was doing. You can try to apply extra heat on here, but I always worry about warping the panel and hurting the paint. And it is very hot in here. I think it's like 80 degrees in here right now in this shop, and that's as hot as it's going to get. If this this adhesive tape is on right, it's pretty impossible to naturally get off, we'll call it. So if you were going to strip the paint, yeah, you can do some chemicals, but I don't want to do that. I want to leave the paint where it is and not hurt anything. So I scrape that as long as it does. And if you don't get this right, you're going to get bumpy lumpies and even warp the panel. And I'll show you where on the door itself, some of the stuff that I did and why that's important too. So I had to get all this off. There was definitely some more on this end as well that I had to take a razor blade and be careful not to hurt the paint, or at least get it not down to metal, because I don't want to do that. Even though this is covered, you don't want anything to rust or anything like that. So I was very careful, but I had to get that hard shell, whatever they injected in here, off. But you want to make sure this is, and there were some there too and stuff, but you want to make sure this is as close as you can to the body and straight, because you've probably seen panels, especially larger body panels, where they do this, they do the wave, and a lot of times that's because somebody reapplied the panel and they didn't do proper prep, and they didn't take all the tape off or make it even, and or else they didn't even take any tape off, even, that's worse, and they slapped it on, and then it caused the warpage. And even worse is after time, when that's there, the molding will actually conform to that over time with heat cycles and that through the year and conditions, that it'll be a permanent way of that body molding. And that's an issue, obviously, because you can probably never get that body molding straight again. So just don't do it, and do it right the first time. Also on here, if you're doing this top edge, or you will be very careful. Take your time not to go over this line, because that, and by the way, that's just adhesive there, so that's fine. But because you don't want to scratch this paint, because this is the top of the molding, and you see that, so you don't want a big scrape marks there, right? You can buff some of it out, but you don't want to do it. So just take your time on this top row, and make sure you don't go over that line. And again, make sure it's very flat. You obviously have a little more liberty on here. You can see that I scratched a bit there, but it's not through the paint, and this is covered up, and then I can get this as flat as possible. This is where I had to take some of that black stuff off as well that they had splattered on there. And I don't know, I've never noticed that on these cars as a factory thing, but it looked like it was even white and then painted over. I'm not sure, but I definitely know this was not right because it was sticking out. This is some of the piece that was come out as well, and it wasn't flush or anything, so there's no way this panel could have ever been flush. So somebody was in there, and we're going to get that fixed up and do it right. So now to get this black stuff off without hurting the actual panel, it's going to be a tough one, I think, because it's in there. I think I'll just start with this. There we go. Boy, they did a number here, guys. I'll do what I can. It really sucks in here how much they went and built up that lip here. I'm going to try hard to get this right. Boy, why did they do this? Don't ever do this. Whoever did. Somebody was in a hurry and thought it was a good idea. I have to be careful on prying this because I don't want it to poke out of the other side, so I'm being kind of careful on it as well. This big glob here is going to be a problem. I might have to take some tools out for this one. All right, I have to bring out the big guns to get this kind of where it needs to be. Be very careful if you use this equipment on here, because you don't want to wreck anything on this molding. That's a problem if you do, not that it can't be fixed, but that's a whole other bunch of hours you don't want to get into. So here goes. Okay, so it was sticking above this piece here before, and now I've got it all, all cut out so that it won't cause any raised bump there. So this can go flush again when we get it all done. So as I was looking here, I didn't realize this piece, this molding right here, is kind of separated. The adhesive tape is separated, and these clips were letting go as well that were in there. So it looks like that needs to come apart as well. So it's becoming a bigger job. So to take this molding off here, there's some clips and some screws and stuff, but the most painful thing is this piece is actually technically bolted in, and you got to take the interior apart a bit. So you take the back seat out and this panel right here, and if you look inside, if there's enough light here, you can see right there, there's one nut, and I don't know if you can see it or not. There is one in, it's too dark, but there's one in there too. Let me see if I can show you that. Okay, you can see the one down in there too, and that's the other one to basically get that little bit out, and then you can remove that panel. So I have a lot more to clean up on there, and well, underneath here too. Basically doing all the side moldings ends up being, because that's it. The bumper covers are all would be done left, and those aren't actually secured like this. They're just all bolted in. So yeah, I'm doing all the side moldings in this car and ended up, which I guess given its age, it's a redo. Hey, show you something neat. If you're wondering what those little vents were that you always see on the side, well, they basically vent the interior air. Look at that. See, when you close the door? Yeah, and you can feel the air come out of there. So those vents do have a purpose. If you thought they were part of a design, they're actually functional. Okay, I've got it all cleaned up now. All the adhesive tape is off. I use glass cleaner, and I also use some alcohol to wipe everything down, because you want everything to be clean. Prep again is everything, as all your next steps. Same thing, did the same thing with getting all the adhesive tape off here and cleaned it all up. So the next thing I'll be doing is putting the tape on. Before I do that, I put this adhesion promoter on with all the locations where I'm going to be putting the foam tape on, or adhesive tape on. It just helps it. And after that, then I put, of course, the tape on and get it prepped, so ready for putting on the car. That's next now. Okay, everything's taped up. Right there. And this guy too. First panel I'm going to put on is this one on the door here. That's usually a good start. Make sure that's lined up, and then you kind of work around it. So before I put this adhesion promoter on where the strips are going to adhere to on the car, so on the body of the car, I'm going to peel this paint off, because the sooner you get this on the car after this is applied, the better. If you go too long, it's not as effective. So basically take the tape off first, and then go put this on the body of the car, and then put the panel on. And that's exactly what I'm going to do right now. Let's do adhesion promoter right now on this. Okay, so I usually start where I can't see first, which means I put it on the bottom, and that's where the clips are kind of going to go into to help guide it. And you only got one real shot at this, to be honest, because once that tape is on, it's on. Okay, we're going for it now. Notice I did the top first. Try and get that set in here. And then I'm gonna basically pressure it, roll it, is what they kind of do, because you want that to stick really solid right now. I think it's working, guys. Okay. Come a long way in this one. See how it works in the bottom. Oh yeah, we're doing good. Okay. Make sure it's, yeah, she's holding good. I'm going to show you something. It's hard to see because it's black, but it happened, and a warning to you guys if you're doing this. So you can see how it's kind of bowed, like the corners here are out more that way. And I tried to just push it back when it was on the car, just because I had it all taped and everything and ready to go. And this old paint, it cracked. You can see, it's hard to see in this camera angle here, but I'll get a picture of it maybe for you too. But you can see that basically it's cracked down in here, right? Might have to repaint this guy. We're going to figure what we can do. We're going to find out. But just a warning, when you were, this has never happened to me before, by the way, but lesson learned, when it's really old paint, it can be pretty brittle and crack. I know, like, paintless dent repair guys have heaters and that, and they know paint really well and how much it can flex and all that stuff. Now, this is also on, you know, a plastic molding, so that might have something to do with it too. But lesson learned for me and those out there, this can happen. Don't let it get you down, but we may have to paint this now. Okay, all right, the other side is pretty close to being finished. I've just turned the car around because everything against that wall is hard to open the doors. So let's look at this side. This side isn't as bad. In fact, this piece here is fine. This door panel, yeah, it's coming loose. You can see in there too, so that needs replacing. This, unfortunately, it's good there, but here we've got an issue that we've got to repair. So, got some work there. So let's get to working on this now. There, off. Okay. See how easy that is to come off? This wasn't sticking worth crap. It's obviously this was done once before. This isn't definitely from the factory when I do this. So yeah, this is all, I'm gonna call it inferior tape, which is partly why it's lifted, but the moldings do lift on their own over time as well, just from wear and trying to heave and getting old and brittle, kind of like some of us. So here is one of my 3 methods that I talked about doing. And this one, because it isn't bad, and because I cracked the paint on the other one trying to really flex it when it was bowed right out. Don't do that. I'm just gonna try and use epoxy in there, and I don't know if you can see in there, but there's a little bit of a gap where the tape is, and I've done this before with success. Actually quite a few times I have, so I'm hoping it works. What I'm going to do is I'm going to mix up some epoxy. This is a cotton swab, commercial industrial grade one that I snapped in half. Usually when you snap it, it makes a nice little sharp cut off there. You can see where way it snaps. And then you can kind of put it in there. Now, you want to make sure you're very precise in this because you don't want to get epoxy in anything else. You do have a little bit, I'm using 5-minute epoxy. You got a little time to wipe it up, but be very quickly if you do that. Otherwise it will cause a problem. So basically what I'm going to do is stuff it in there as much as I can, and then I'm going to brace this and basically clamp it like that, and then it should hold. But I kind of still let it sit for a day anyway, even though it's 5-minute epoxy. I think cure time is usually 24 hours, so I make sure I give it 24 hours for full cure, and then I let the brace go, and hopefully it doesn't pop out. If it does, then we got to go to plan A instead of B, I guess. But I've had really good luck with this, and I'm a little gun shy given what happened to that other one. Try and get it in there, and be careful doing this, because otherwise you will get it everywhere, and you don't want to do that. Kind of pry it a little bit, but don't like yank it so it's completely loose. But yeah, I just kind of stuff it in there, and you've got, it says 5-minute epoxy. Don't take 5 minutes. Try to do it really quick like I'm doing here. A little more in there. You can shave this off later too if you really make a mess. I've had to do that too, but best thing is to clean it up fast if you can. All right, I think I'm good in there. I'm just gonna see what happens. Oh yeah, we're good. I'm gonna actually do a little cleanup already because I can see what's happening here. All right, and okay. Now, you're gonna laugh at this, but it works. That's what I'm gonna do now. I made a little brace. As long as you got something, a good foundation to do it, it will work. And that's exactly what I'm doing right now. And I've measured it out, so we should be good to go here. Okay. I'll show you what this is later. Right now I just want to get this wiped up. Very important to do that because you don't want this all over the place. I might actually give it a little touch up here. A little bit again. I think it's going to be okay, but just to get it inside there. I'm running out of time, so I got to be pretty quick here. Just trying to make sure that it's flush. I wiped a little more than I should have off. I think we're good. Okay. And a good way to check on epoxy when it's completely hardened, I usually just leave what I ever used to poke it in and let this sit overnight and then see how solid that is after the fact. And we should be good. And if you're wondering how this is braced, yeah, it's a broom, and it's resting against this car on the wheel, and I tested this before I did everything, and it's just gonna sit like that overnight. I'm not gonna touch a thing, and we'll see by tomorrow what it looks like. And there's a little close-up. You can see how it's fitting now compared to what it was. So this one's gonna be in pretty good condition. I only got the one door panel, which does need a little work, but we're just not going to touch this for now with this setup and get to that tomorrow. But I can clean that guy over there. I'll clean that up for get ready for tomorrow anyway, and then I'll clean the door panel up and then go to town. So let's see how we did on this. Move the burp handle off. And it's holding great. Yeah, she's holding. Yeah, it's not even flexing. So, yeah. Okay, that one's done. That technique worked. Let's hit this on. Found more evidence of, you see this hard black stuff on here that I got to remove. Kind of sucks, but right in here, I'll get it off, I guess. Definitely, you know, somebody's been in here before doing stuff. You can see there too, more of that gray stuff there. Yeah. Okay, well, let's get it off and do it right. Great, we got that one done too. Okay. Now, I got a little problem over here. It's not horrible, but you can see in there, it is trying to lift a little bit, and I got to see what I can do with that. And what I do on this one is I take that adhesion promoter that I use, this guy, and then what I do is I drench it in there to try and get that tape to seal up, and that works pretty well too. This is a little blemish I noticed on here. The paint's kind of flaking off. You can see it. I got to touch that up too. Okay, much improved other than it's dirty right now, but see it's bowing a little bit there, but nothing too bad as far as when you look at it. This piece right here, that molding looks awesome. It went perfect, that one. I'm pretty happy with the way that one resulted. This one, there was already nothing wrong with it. And now if we walk around the car, go to the other side, driver's side, which had more issues. Yeah, we're looking pretty good, all the methods we did here. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with everything. This piece, that's the one that cracked. Lessons learned on that one, and but we'll get it back and it'll be like new when it's put back on. Well, that's going to conclude this episode. Thanks for watching. Now you know how to fix your moldings if they're coming off or they're curving on an older car. There's going to be lots more stuff like that, as well as other cars that I'm doing stuff on. That particular car, it's going to get ceramic coated. Actually, it's going to get paint correction and then ceramic coated. And that's where it is right now. It's not in the shop anymore. And we'll be doing more on that as well. So subscribe to catch all that stuff. And until then, enjoy every day and always make it right.